Brothers and sisters, good morning to you. Today we're going to read the last 4 chapters of Book of Esther. The title I will give to these 4 chapters, chapter 7 to chapter 10, the title I will give today, a main title for these 4 chapters, in this world, everything in this world, at the end, everything in the world will be turned around. That's the title for these 4 chapters. Everything happening in this world is in the hand of God. God is here. God will turn around everything that is happening in the world. Or from another angle, we would say, God can turn everything around. We trust in God. God will turn everything around for our sake. It's a message to the Jews in the time of Esther. They were under the regiment of Persian. They were ruled by Gentiles. They were despised and hated by other nations and peoples. Their lives were in jeopardy. That's why Haman was able to carry out such evil plan to destroy all the Jews. So that's the crisis for the whole people, for the whole nations. They live in a hard life. I mentioned yesterday, they were afraid to tell others that they were Jews. When the edict of the king to kill them all in the month of Adar, that is the 12th month, 13 days, they will be destroyed totally. That's why they put on their ashes and put on their sackcloth. The message of the book of Esther was to tell the Jews at the time, and the Jews after the time of Esther, even though they were in captivity, but God can turn everything around. Yes, there was nothing guaranteed in their life. Even though they were in distress, in adversity, in crisis. But everything, all these may be turned around. However the enemy mistreats them, God will turn everything around. The people of the people of the Jews, as well as the people of God, how we suffer in darkness, but in the hands of God, God will turn everything into joy and blessings. That's the message of the whole book of Esther. So we have been reading the whole book of Esther over these 3 days. The first one we talked about was chapter 1 and 3. It talked about the crisis. How God prepared everything before crisis arose. Queen Esther was made queen. And then chapter 4 to 6, the whole process. During the whole crisis, how should the Jews react? They need to trust and trust again. And then they can walk out of the crisis and walk towards victory. The transition. Now in chapter 7 to 10, everything has been turned around. Everything has been turned around. Let's read these 4 chapters. Chapter 7, first of all. The fate of the wicked has been turned around. The wicked Haman, the position of his fate has been turned around. He even lost his life. Verse 1, so the king and Haman went to dine with Queen Esther. Verse 2, and on the second day at the banquet of wine, the king again said to Esther, what is your petition, Queen Esther? It shall be granted you. And what is your request? Up to half the kingdom, it shall be done. Verse 1 to 2. That's the second banquet. Queen Esther was waiting. She didn't say anything in the first banquet. The first banquet, she waited for God. And then when it comes to the second day of the banquet, the third time, the king asked her third time, what is your petition, Queen Esther? It shall be granted you. And what is your request? Up to half the kingdom, it shall be done. Now coming to this point, because the day before that, in chapter 6, something happened, remember? That night the king could not sleep. Chapter 6, verse 1. After the first banquet, he couldn't sleep that night. And something happened after the first banquet. So Haman was well pleased, right? So he prepared the gallows in order to hang Mordecai. But that night, the king could not sleep. So Haman and the king were busy that night for different reasons after the first banquet. We can see that God is at work. Why was the anger burned within Haman? He was so agitated that he wanted to make the gallows and to hang Mordecai on it. That's the wicked plan of the evil man. He couldn't wait until the 12th month, the month of Adar, to kill Mordecai. He couldn't wait. So he made the gallows. So he rushed to the palace to hang Mordecai straight away on the gallows. But that night, God moved. God turned everything around. The king could not sleep, and then he read the book of the records of the Chronicles and realized that he had never rewarded Mordecai. And it so happened that Haman, when king was wanting to reward Mordecai, Haman rushed into the palace. So it was at the end, it was Haman who paraded Mordecai on the horse and said, and then he kept saying that shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. He kept declaring, proclaiming it. That's what Haman did. Remember when Adino played the role of Haman, he was, having that horse, and then he was like, yeah. Now in chapter 7 is the second banquet. So the king asked the Queen Esther, what is your petition? It's the third time the king asked Esther. After what happened the night before, after the first banquet, then Queen Esther knew that God had done something. Because Mordecai was on the royal horses, right? And then put on the royal robe. And it was Haman who, parade and honor Mordecai before everyone. So she saw God had started to turn everything around. The wicked enemy of the Jews, Haman, was walking before Mordecai and honoring Mordecai, the Jews, on the horse. And then the king realized that Mordecai had done a great thing for him. So God was on the move. So on the second banquet, when the king asked her the third time, Queen Esther, what is your petition? It shall be granted you, even up to half the kingdom. Now, Queen Esther directly, she submitted to the leading of God. Under that circumstance, she told the king of the wicked plan of Haman. Verse 3, then Queen Esther answered and said, if I find favor in your sight, O king, and if pleases the king, let my life be given me at my petition and my people at my request. For we have been sold, my people and I, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated. Had we been sold as male and female slaves, I would have held my tongue, although the enemy could never compensate for the king's loss. Verse 3 and 4. King Ahasuerus answered, who is he? Where is he? And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. So Haman was terrified before the king and queen. Verse 6. Remember, Adino was playing this. The apple was in his hand, was dropped that. He played the role of Haman really well. When there is a chance, I really want to call Adino back to play this wicked Haman again. So Haman did this. Haman was most honored before the king, before this event. So the king was furious. So the king arose in his wrath from the banquet of wine and went into the palace garden. Verse 7. So he was so angry, he didn't know what to do. What should I do? What should I do? And then Haman stood before Queen Esther, so afraid, terrified. So Queen Esther had been, on the couch. That's what the Persian emperor does, the culture. So the Queen Esther was lying on the couch. She was not sitting on the chair. So it's actually the palace of the Queen Esther. That's where she hosts guests. So she was sitting on the couch. So Haman was hoping to plead for his life. So he drew close to the couch where Esther was. So the king was not sure what he should do, King Ahasuerus. So he went to the palace garden, right? He was furious. But he did not want to kill Haman there and then. But he came back and he saw, hey, Haman, you have fallen across the couch where Esther was. Hey, that's and where Esther was. Will he also assault the queen while I'm in the house? Verse 8. As the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. So they caught Haman. And Harbona, one of the eunuchs, said to the king, look, the gallows, 50 cubits high, which Haman made for Mordecai. The eunuchs, they knew everything, don't they? So they told the king. And then the king said, hang him on it. The fate, the destiny of Haman had been turned around here. Mordecai was under him. He was planning to kill Mordecai. And the gallows was to hang Mordecai. But in the end, it was him who was hung there. It was not Mordecai who died on the gallows, but it was Haman himself on the gallows. His position, Mordecai replaced him. So his wicked plan had been exposed. The whole chapter of 7, the position and the plan of the wicked will be turned around. Now we are on chapter 8. The inheritance and the evil plan of the wicked one had been turned around too. So the king's order had been issued on the month of Adar, and the 12th month, the 13th day, then the Jews would be killed. So what should he do? That's what it says in chapter 8. God continues to work. After the first banquet, before the second banquet, what happened in chapter 6, what happened on that night was crucial. It was the turning point, chapter 6. But we, as the people of God, must wait for God to move. If Esther had said that she wanted Haman to be killed when the king asked her the first time, the king will be stuck. The king wouldn't know what to do. So you are forcing the king to choose either Queen Esther or the Haman. It will be really hard for the king to choose. But that night, God already moved. That's why in the second banquet, Queen Esther mentioned that. Even when Queen Esther mentioned that evil plan, the king did not try to kill Haman straight away. No. But he saw that Haman was trying to assault the queen. He thought that he was trying to assault the queen. Then enough said. And the king was saying that, okay, enough said. Enough said. Your fate is decided. That's why he was hung on the gallows. As people of God, as God's servants, we must wait for God's timing to move. Do not take matter into our own hands. In faith, we walk past adversity and towards victory. God will be at work. God will turn everything around. So Haman's destiny had been turned around. So he kind of like swapped a place with Mordecai. Now chapter 8, his inheritance, his plan had been turned around as well. Verse 1 to 2, his house, his inheritance had been handed over. So King Ahasuerus gave Queen Esther the house of Haman, and Mordecai and Esther appointed Mordecai over the house of Haman. And verse 3 to 7, because it's got the king's command, he cannot revoke his own command. For the king, he cannot revoke his own command. Verse 3, that he should plead that the king will revoke the order sent by Haman. Verse 5, the last part, if it pleases the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seems right to the king, and I'm pleasing in his sight, let it be written to revoke the letters devised by Haman. For how can I endure to see the evil that will come to my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my countrymen? Verse 6. Haman was dead. But the order Haman sent in the king's name still stood there. So Esther asked the king to revoke. Revoke in the original text means reverse, turn it around. How can I endure to see the evil that will come to my people? So verse 7, King Ahasuerus replied. He said to Queen Esther and Mordecai the Jew, indeed, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and they have hanged him on the gallows because he tried to lay his hand on the Jews. You yourself write a decree concerning the Jews as you please in the king's name, and sealed it with the king's signet ring. For whatever is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet ring, no one can revoke. That's the rules of Persian. No one can revoke king's command. So the king sent out the command, sent it out, it must be executed. And you cannot say, okay, that command didn't count. But then the king thought of another way, right? In the month of Adar, what Haman has sent in my name, sealed with my signet ring, still stand. It was still valid. But now, I give you my signet ring. So Queen Esther and Mordecai, you write a decree concerning the Jews as you please. Whatever pleases you, you can write it. You think your way, but it's still in my name, is my command. So the two commands will be executed. So Haman's was the first, and then now yours is the second. What do you want to do? Do it. I will let this command be sent. So the king's scribes were called at that time in the third month, which is the month of Sivan. Verse 9 of chapter 8. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded to the Jews, the satraps, the governors, and the prince of the princes from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces in all, to every province in its own script, to every people in their own language, and to the Jews in their own script and language. And this order will go to every province. By this letter, the kings permitted the Jews who were in every city to gather together to protect their lives, to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the forces of any people or province that will assault them, both little children and women, and to plunder their possessions. Verse 11. All the Haman sent was that in the month of Adar, then that everyone can kill and plunder Jews and kill them all. And then the king's order Mordecai sent is that the Jews can arouse and then protect their lives, gather together and protect their lives, and they can also destroy and kill and plunder everyone who tries to kill them. Those who want to attack Jews, the Jews can arise and counter-strike, fight back. So in the month of Adar, if the people who were in Haman's gang attack the Jews can protect their own lives, gather together. They can plunder the Jews, but under the king's command, the Jews can also plunder and kill their enemies. So the order Mordecai sent also reached every province. I want to show you this. In the third month, on the 23rd day, verse 9 of chapter 8, third month, 23rd day. Please highlight this. Just counted it. 13 days of the first month, 13 days, all the way to the third month, the 23rd day. How many days in total? Let me count for you. I've done the counting, right? 30 days in 1 month. So 17 days in the first month because it's the 13 days. And then 30 days in the second month. And then the 23 days in the third month. 17 plus 20 plus 23. So that should be 17 plus 20 plus 23. What's the total? 70 days. The Jews were in captivity for 70 years and then they returned. Now, from Haman cast lot the first order until now, Mordecai sent the second command, and 70 days had passed in between. Number 70 signifies the return of the Jews. The number signifies they're turning around. Brothers and sisters, can you see that everything is in the hand of God? Our days are in the hand of God. So do not rush. If Esther had been impatient right after her fasting, she went to the king and the king stretched out the golden scepter to her the first night. The first night she went to see the king and then the king stretched out the golden scepter. She fast and pray, right? She didn't eat and drink. After 3 days and 3 nights, you did not eat or drink. What would you feel? How would you feel? Your breath, you may have bad breath, right? And then you saw the king, and then you breathed, and then the bad breath. Can you imagine that? Must wait for God's timing. God says 70 days. It took God 70 days to turn the fate of the Jews. 70 years they returned from captivity, and 70 years they returned from captivity. Now 70 days their fate had been turned around. 29:18, during the morning devotion, the Western calendar, that should be the 20th of July, 2018. We were reading the book of Nehemiah. Suddenly, God gave us a prompting. 52 years planting Tree of Life everywhere. I couldn't believe it. 52 years planting Tree of Life everywhere. So Pastor Ruby asked everyone to come forward, the MG leaders to come forward and pray for me. So during the prayer, God asked me, so what is the years this year? 2018. So 2018 plus 52, that will be 2070, right? So it's 2070. Number 70. And that year, Israel has been established as a nation for 70 years. And then 2070, planting Tree of Life everywhere should be accomplished. Planting Tree of Life everywhere shall be accomplished. Everything is in the hand of God. So our whole church went on a cruise trip. So when we were on the cruise, the second day, during morning devotion, that's the 24th day of the 7th month. It's still on the book of Nehemiah. He said the 24th day of that month, that's the 24th day of the 7th month. So it was 24th of July that we read that the 24th day of the 7th month. So I was truly shocked. Everything is in God's hand. So now I'm telling our brothers and sisters, during the pandemic, we must wait for God to act. Do not rush. We follow what God is doing. Time is in God's hands. God can turn everything around. I'm running out of time. I will go through chapter 9 and 10 quickly. Chapter 9, verse 1 to 32. The title for this chapter. The Jews was come out of the enemies, and they ordained Purim. They enjoy peace. So they were so happy. So that's why they set up the Purim. I must talk about this. Chapter 9, verse 4. For Mordecai was great in the king's palace, and his fame spread throughout all the provinces, for this man Mordecai became increasingly prominent. And then verse 3, and all the officials of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and all those doing the king's work helped the Jews because because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. On the 13th day of the 12th month, the people of Haman's gang arose to kill the Jews, but the Jews were able to protect themselves and kill them too. But there were a lot of foreigners, right? How about the officials of the provinces? Would they help Haman or would they help Mordecai? The time was crucial. As soon as Mordecai was made governor, Haman died. And then they kill one another. If they had done that, they kill one another. That would be a totally different situation. But after Mordecai sent out the king's command in king's name, that's the 23rd day of the 3rd month. There's about another 10 months before the month of Adar came. Within these 10 months, Mordecai start to be more prominent, and all the officials and the satraps respect Mordecai. So everyone, all peoples help the Jews. So this popularity with other people, it took them 10 months to build that popularity. So after 10 months that they came, no one in the gang of Haman dared to touch the Jews. But the Jews defeated all their enemy, those who were in the Susan. They killed 500 people in the month of Adar, including 10 sons of Haman. Verse 12. And then they killed another day. The next day, they killed 300 people in the Susan. And then they killed 75,000 throughout all provinces. They should be the Agavite. That's the enemies of the Jews. And because of that, then the Jews were able to enjoy peace. Can you see the turnaround, the reversal? So the Agavites arose to kill all the Jews. But now the Jews kill all the Agavites. The Jews were able to enjoy peace and rejoicing. But they did not plunder possession. They just preserved their life. They kill all their enemies because you want to kill me. The Agavites were planning to kill and destroy all the Jews. But now the Jews killed the descendants of Agavite. So now they enjoy peace. So they set those 2 days as Purim. Because Esther asked the king for the order to be executed one more day. It's another special thing here. The 14th day of the month of Adar should be a Sabbath. So the Jews should observe the Sabbath. But that day they killed all the enemies. It was a special day. The Jews did not fight any battle on a Sabbath. Unless they were being attacked, then they have to protect themselves. But here, they even killed their enemies. That is the work of God. It was God who killed all the enemies of the Jews. And they said these 2 days as the Purim, and they will give to the poor. So I want to point out one thing. So the 17th of March is the first day of Purim. From yesterday, our church has started our disaster relief action. Over 300 people receive our supplies. We thank God. What a coincidence. Well, our days is in the hand of God. Why do we give to the poor on the first day of the Purim? That's what the Bible says, the last one. Mordecai was honored, and the Jews enjoy peace. Everything has been turned around. Now the Jews were enjoying peace. I want to tell every brother and sisters, as a cell leader, as a leader, you shall be honored. So Mordecai, to which the king advanced him, are not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia. God will lift up the leaders. God will honor you. So wait for God's timing. So Mordecai, sought the good of his people and spoke peace to all his countrymen. Verse 3 of chapter 10. Everyone who believes in Jesus, God says to you, you shall enjoy peace, especially during this pandemic. God will give you blessing. God will exalt you. We wait for God to exalt us. We wait for God's timing. So in faith, we walk past the crisis and towards victory. And in chapter 7 and 10, so we receive victory and we are exalted. Everything has been turned around. Everything is in the hand of God. May God give us such faith. Amen. That's the end of the message today.